All right, everybody, welcome back. The Paradox of Sports, episode 8. We have a very special guest. We're not screwing around tonight. Normally, Jack and I will banter a bit, but tonight we're going to jump right into it. We have a man who, if you follow the sports that Jack and I follow, you will recognize his voice and his face, mainly his voice, maybe his face, but it is Mr. Jim Brooks, who has been a staple in Pueblo sports for probably more years than he wants us to mention, but he was kind enough to share some time with us tonight. So, Jim, welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks, Jack. How's it going out there?
Doing great.
We are doing well. It's the way we start things here. It's kind of becoming our tradition, so we're going to keep with it. To start the interview, we're just going to throw it to our boy Jack and let him get started.
All right, Jack. Fire away, buddy.
Okay. 1998. The partnership with PCC launched the Center for New Media and CNN Sports, where you were the play-by-play voice for the televised high school football games. What did you feel that did for the sports fans in Pueblo, since high school sports is such a big deal?
Well, I think it was 1996 when it actually started. 97 is when I joined the party.
Oh.
And but that's all right. A couple years. It's more years, like we said, than we care to remember. But it was such a cool thing. I was been out of the media for about 5 or 6 years, maybe 5 years, because KCSJ and dropped me, and I didn't have any work. And then Scott Richards came to me, said, "Hey, we got this opening. We want you to do some high school football on television." I go, "Okay, that sounds cool." And it worked out great, and the fans love it. We used to do a lot more games. We're down to only doing about 8 games a year now, but we just pick our spots for the big games. But, man, it's great. The fans love it. And I'm not quite sure the people of Pueblo know what they have at times with us doing the ball games with these with the professional setup we do with the 4 cameras and everything. Everybody's trying to do it now with their little 1-camera setups. Even the state of Colorado with Chas have broadcasting ball games with 1 camera. It's ridiculous. But we do the 4-camera setup. It's great for the fans, and I've enjoyed it. It's been great. Kevin was with us right there at the start. So was your dad. It was fun.
Okay.
Now, when you talk about the break you had, so when I met you and started doing it, we're talking like 98, 99.
Correct.
So I don't know much about what you did prior to that. So let's go back to like young Jim, or really young Jim. What were the first things you got in? I assume it was radio you were doing.
Well, if you want to go way back, when I was a kid, everybody kids about it that played in the neighborhood on the pickup games, we had what we called the Baylor Sports Complex when I was a kid. And when we'd play our pickup games, I'd call the play-by-play as we were playing our little 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 or whatever we were doing out in the street or in the driveway and basketball. So I've always had this love for doing sports. In college, that was my major, mass comm, like an idiot, We all wonder why we did that now.
Ditto.
But out of in college, I was doing some stuff for what's now called the Rev. I guess it was probably the Rev then. I'm not quite sure what we called ourselves then, but I did a weekly half-hour show, interviewed all the coaches. I used to take my tape recorder and sit at the top of Masari Arena and do basketball games. I got a gig. My first actual radio gig was with KCSJ doing live reports of Pueblo County football. So what I do during the week, I'd go out and interview the coach, Denny Stilson, the late Denny Stilson. I do an interview with them. They play it in the pregame show, and then I do like quarterly reports. They come to me and I give a score of the county game. It was sponsored. Throw it back to Jeff Orman and Uncle Rex, and I think Wes Boucher was doing the games then. So I did that. My first real big break was doing Rye basketball. I used to do live reports of Rye basketball that same winter or maybe the following winter, but their games always started late. So Jeffrey would do the regular game in town. Then I'd get to do the Rye game, usually at least 3/4 of it, sometimes the whole ball game. And that's when Rye was awesome. The Robatos, it was great stuff. It was a packed gym, very exciting, did their basketball games. Then I moved on, eventually got into sit in the big chair a little bit with Jeffrey on occasion. Then they had a backup game. We were doing on both stations. I was working with Marty Bakina up through about 95, 90, or 85, 86, 87. Then KCSJ whacked me. They said, you're going to take less pay to do the same work. I said, no, I don't do this for free. So that's when Paul Jones had Kid Country. So I went over to there and started doing games for them. Got the college gig, I think in 86. I did that 86 through 90, 91, like 4-year run. They brought in a guy to work full time. So I got kicked out of that. I still did a few games here and there. I did a state championship game, South Girls. I remember 92, 93, somewhere in there. I think 94, maybe it was 93. I can't remember. But that was my last. So then I was out of everything. I was out of radio. There was nothing to do. And then I got the TV gig. And then I did the TV gig forever. And then the college came back. They were on for a couple years. They decided they didn't like the direction with the way things were going the first 2 years of CSU-Pueblo football. So they brought in Joe Servi and me to try to up the deal, I guess, is basically what they told us. So that's we ended up taking over, and I've been running that since then with Joe. It's been a great partnership. I enjoy doing it, and hopefully we'll get to play this fall. But that's kind of a quick synopsis of my media career.
Okay.
Okay. My dad became one of your sideline reporters for a couple of years.
Correct.
How good did he make you and Joe Servi look?
You know, we would be struggling a lot during a broadcast, didn't know where we were going. They say, you know what, let's go down to a sideline report with Kevin. And then he'd bring us back to reality and have a great report. It was awesome. I don't know how we got through some of those games. You know, Kevin, were you on the Bell game in 99?
I was, man. That was my first experience. And there's two things there's two things I remember from it. First, which I hope later that we can get Rick on here to talk about it, because I knew who Upchurch was, but
right.
I didn't know him that well. And the two things I remember is you kept telling me, I kept referencing my small town, like the Lamar Holiday Basketball Tournament being full, and that's cool, but that might be like 1,400 people. And you guys kept telling me, like,
right.
no, dude, you hillbilly, this is going to be different. And I was like, okay. And I remember somebody was punting before the game, and Rick went out and caught a couple punts and sort of shimmied. And I remember, like, holy cow, because I'm not going to say he was old then, but he was out of the league, but he was still like a thoroughbred. And I remember that. And then I remember when the game kicked off, finally looking around like, holy crap, there's a lot of people here. And it was, for a high school sport, for a 19-year-old kid, I had never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, it's crazy. Sea of Red, you got anywhere from, depends on who you talk to, anywhere from 12,000 to 14,000.
Well, and it was full.
Sounds better with 14,000. I don't know if anybody's actually got in there and sat down in every seat to determine how many people are in the building, but it's an amazing crowd, that's for sure.
And it was full that night, and I don't remember if it was in the 60s and the 50s or the 50s and the 40s or something.
69 to 53 was the final score.
Yeah, it was chaos. Like, I mean, going up and down and just watching it, that was crazy.
Now, the funny story about that game, you probably remember it. I had to catch a plane, the red eye, first to Atlanta, then down to Jacksonville. I was in the FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes National Golf Scramble, which we qualified for. So the team I was with, they all went down that Friday during the day. But, of course, I had the Bell game, had to do that. So we figured out a way I could get there and be able to get to the tee right on time. So, but the game ran forever. I mean, it didn't finish till 10. Most of the games are over. You didn't need that,
yeah.
Most of the time, the game's over 9:15. Get the hell out of it. So it was 100 miles an hour all the way up to DIA. My nephew Rick came with me, and we dropped me off. And that was before, of course, they had security. So I get out of the truck, run into the airport, go by the first little security, say, Where's the? I gotta go. So I go running down the hallway to catch the train. You didn't have to clear anything then. And my nephew said they just went to their little earpieces and goes, we have a runner.
Yeah, we got
So,
a guy. Yeah.
so I sprinted to the train, got to the plane, ran onto the jetway. That was the last one, and they closed the door, sat down. We pushed off, got to Atlanta. Then we changed planes, go to Jacksonville. I get off the plane, or Jacksonville, get into the cab. They take me from the cab to the TPC at Sawgrass. Everybody's gathered around as the cab drops me off. I get out of the cab. I come running up. They're doing the, I don't know if they're doing the national anthem or the invocation, maybe both. And I come running in. They come give me hugs. We go on. We go to the first tee, and immediately started to play golf.
So you didn't get – there was no range time that day?
No, just walk out and hit it.
Nice.
And the first hole was a par 3. We played the not the stadium course the first day. We played the other course. I don't know if you ever been to the TPC at Sawgrass. Great place. So the other course is not I don't think we played that. We played some other course that first day, and then we played TPC Sawgrass on the Sunday. So I had a proper warm-up for Sawgrass. I've been there 3 times now. It's fabulous.
I know one of the things, Jack, just going over notes, we're going to talk about the CSU-Pueblo football. Before we get too far away from the high school stuff and kind of the history there in Pueblo, you had mentioned your first stint when you were doing the games for the college. This is pre-football.
Correct.
So then is this basketball and baseball you're doing then, or kind of what was king in Pueblo college-wise before the football started?
My first go-around, I was doing basketball. Strictly basketball, no baseball, just all basketball. Did all the men's games. I did a lot of the women's home games. I don't think at that time they weren't doing the double headers, if I remember right, and it was the different leagues and all of that. So I was doing mostly men's basketball, but I did a lot of women's basketball as well. And had some great players on that women's team. The men's team was dynamite. I mean, they were awesome. In fact, the last year I was doing it, which was really kind of ticked me off, was the year they had a national tournament team back when they were in the NAIA. And but they wouldn't send me. KCSA wouldn't send me there. They wouldn't pay to send me there. So it was kind of ticked me off. But
so when we had,
I didn't get to go when they had all 32 teams or whatever there.
So when we had Morgan on a couple weeks ago, Morgan Fox, he talked about Pueblo, kind of always being a football town. I didn't get there till 98, so I don't know anything about it prior to that. But even with the college and the stuff leading up through that 80s and 90s, was the high school football. He referenced the Bell game, which shocked me. I knew he was there, during the CSU Pueblo days, but he moved in from, I think, Virginia to Fort Carson. So
right.
He's not a southeastern Colorado kid, but of all the things we discussed, he brought up the Bell game. So was that even prior to the college football showing up? Was football at the high school level? Was that what was king in Pueblo?
Oh yeah, no doubt. It was. You got to remember back in the 70s and even early 80s, mid 80s, didn't have cable television. You had your 3 channels and PBS. So what did you do on Friday night? You went to the football game. So now a game you go to in town might have 1,000 people, 1,200 people too. You had South playing Central, you get 5,000 people to the gym or the game. And then the basketball games were nuts too at the old District 60 gym before they South moved out and decided they needed to play at Roncalli, which always boggled my mind. Roncalli was, like Pitt's Middle School on steroids. It was not the thing to do. District 60 gym was the place to play basketball, but South left there volunteered to leave. But I digress. That's
okay. All right, Jack.
But high school basketball, it would to get to the games. I remember when South and East would play, you had to get there an hour before the game started. You had to watch the JV. JVs played before packed houses. And then the varsity game would start in basketball. Now the games fill up for the playoffs, but I mean every game was an event then. And then football was also a big deal. Every game that's what you had to do. You went to it's Friday Night Lights.
Okay, Jack, I'll quit hijacking it. What do you got, buddy?
All right. So talk about your start with KCSJ Radio when you first got into business.
Well, that's when I was doing the live reports of county football. That was a blast. County was very good then. I remember they used to have a kid named Drury. Jack Drury was probably one of the most awesome athletes Pueblo's ever produced. So he was on that team. They were great. So I do those live reports. I'd go to the basketball games. I don't know if Kevin might remember a guy named Mike Spence worked for the Chieftain.
Yep, I do. Yep.
We do. I do the county basketball live reports. So we'd sit there in the block office up there behind the glass, and I do my little report every quarter, and we'd shoot the bull for the whole ball game, and then I do my little stint. But that was fun, and then one of the funnest things I ever did. I'm serious. It was Rye basketball. I mean, it was unbelievable. They did the lineups right. They turned out the light, put the spotlight on everybody. It was racehorse basketball. They were playing in the 70s and 80s. It was fun. I was up there in the back of the bleachers on a phone doing the games, and that was a blast. And then working with Jeffrey was fun. My days with Marty Bikini was the whole radio thing was fun. It was stressful though because things didn't always work right. We called ourselves the duct tape network because you always seemed to be taping things together. We'd get a portable Marty unit, which is a portable transmitter. You had to run the antenna up to the roofs a lot of the times. Shoot, a lot of times the phone lines didn't work. You're working on the old-fashioned cell phones that look like a suitcase. You carry that around. You go in. Here's the story. I'm doing a game one time in high school. The battery runs dead on the cell phone. The game's going overtime. It's Central, and I can't remember who it was. Richie Purcell and Gunnar Anderson and Kevin Betts were on this team. Kevin Kalbach, fabulous team for Central rather. The game goes overtime, and I know the battery's going dead. And I'll be damned, it goes dead with about 45 seconds to go. So I race down to the lobby. I watch the end of the game, and I race down to the lobby. There's a payphone down there. Somebody walks up to the payphone. It's kind of like the Costanza episode when Costanza needs, or the Seinfeld episode when Costanza needs to get the cell phone. I actually have to demand I go, you have to get off this phone right now. I need it immediately. So I dial into the station. I recreate the last 45 seconds of the game as it went in my head. I just, as if the game was in action. Game's over. Central wins in overtime. So that was the kind of stuff you had to do doing the games then. So once we got into the second go around with the college, it's been a lot smoother. In fact, the last couple of years have been pretty easy. Okay. What else you got, Jack?
All right.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
I get sidetracked, don't I?
You are well-known as a ringer in golf. Talk about winning the Pueblo City Championship.
Well, it took a while to finally win one. In fact, Dave Stosh, the legendary sports reporter in Pueblo, used to refer to me. He goes, I want to introduce you to Jim Brooks. He's the second best golfer in the city of Pueblo every year. I finished second in the tournament like 8 times. Yeah. But some of some painful seconds. You always remember the painful ones. 85, I lost in a playoff to Steve Ivan. Had a 2-shot lead with I had maybe a 2-shot lead with 2 holes to go. I think it was. He birdied 17. Then on 18, he hits this incredible shot over a tree, knocks it about 3 feet. I have a birdie putt, lays on the lip. He knocks it in. He makes about a 15-footer to keep the playoff alive on the first hole. Of sudden death, I lose on the second hole. So that was my second place. Then I lost in, I think in 88 and 89 to Rocky Tarvella in painful fashion. 90, finally won the thing in a playoff. 93, birdied the last hole. I had a 1-shot lead going in the last hole. I had about a 40-footer. Rocky had it in about 8 feet, which could have tied me. I knocked it in before he could knock his in, so I won that year in 93. 96, I won by about 7 shots. I think I shot 8 under. I shot 70, 66, 66. That was at the height of my powers. I think I was 34 years old, and thought, man, this is I couldn't do anything wrong. So to answer, I won the tournament 3 times. I also in '94 won the city championship, although I finished second in the tournament. They had a residency rule. So Steve Ivan won the tournament. Pueblo anymore. They gave me the trophy. But I have since given the trophy back to Steve. Last year we had a little presentation. I've decided, you know what, Steve? I'm giving you your trophy.
Nice.
Because we're best buddies from way back. So
Nice.
I always call it 3.5 is what I won. But I also finished second in '95. I think it was to Jason Allen. I finished second to Dustin White, who's gone on to be a great pro, has played in the U.S. Open. Pete Severson I finished second to. I think I finished second to Ray McCloskey before. If you're anybody of anybody, I've finished second to you at one point in time.
So when did you start golf? Like, were you playing golf as a boy, or when did that start?
Yeah, 8 years old. We grew up on Baylor, which is right over by Elmwood. It's 1 block away. So my dad wouldn't let me go out to the course until I was 8 years old. And in fact, when I was 7, he'd let me go out finally. I could caddy for him. He wouldn't let me play till I was 8. So the summer when I was 8, so I've been 1970 is when I started. I played in my first tournament, won my first tournament, the Pee Wee Championship. I tried to get into the regular tournament, but they had an age requirement. You had to be 10 or older. But I was only 8, so they were going to let me in the tournament anyway. But then somebody's parent said, well, he can't play. He's only 8. It's like, let the poor kid play. He's a little 8-year-old. What, are you worried about him? Well, yeah, because I could beat their poor 10-year-old already. So, but Mo Springer, the pro, created a tournament for me. He found me, and he went and found Steve Ivan. He found a guy named Mike Minotta, and we had a little short 9 tournament designed just so I could win a championship. That's when I could beat Steve all the time. That quit in about high school. Now,
one of the things I've pushed, and I have failed miserably, with my daughters, is trying to get them to golf. And I had a couple buddies in college that had played all growing up, and I thought it was just cool. Matter of fact, the first time I ever played a round of golf was, I believe it was the day before your dad got married. We went out and played in Pueblo West. But the kids that had played, I thought, man, I wish – and the one kid had made the comment to me that's – you can play golf your whole life. So football, basketball, baseball, that stuff's fun. But you're not going to take that with you forever. So is that something – I'm telling you now, Jack, you got – and it's cool. Baseball's cool. Your basketball's cool. But you learn to golf when you get the chance when you're 10, 11, 12, 13 as a kid. You're going to golf the rest of your life. Do you not agree with that a little, Jim?
I do. And Jack, here's a little tip for you. I know a guy that can help you a little bit.
Yeah, you're right by him. I've been trying to get down there for like 10 years. I want to go down there. I just want to go to Pueblo and play around with Jim. That's all I want to do. I don't even have to be on the Brooks and Dunn page. I just want to go down there and learn how to swing the club. So I'm telling you, Jack, you got to take advantage of that, and you need to get out there and have Jim show you how to swing a club.
I'd be
I've
honored.
been in golf lessons, but it would be an honor if Jim could.
Yeah.
We'll set that up. Let's get her done.
That. Okay. We'll make that as part of one of your episodes.
Yeah, we can do that for sure.
Out there.
Yeah. Once I get released and can leave the state,
yeah, there you go.
I'll make my way down there too. So, okay, Jack, one of the things you talked about here, let's get into a little CSU Pueblo. What was the question you had on the CSU Pueblo football?
So in 2008, CSUP brought back the football program. 2 years later, you became the play-by-play voice of the Thunderwolves. What was it like when you first took on this responsibility?
Well, I haven't been nervous a lot doing ball games. It's kind of a natural thing for me to do, but I tell you, the first time I had to do a CSU Pueblo football game, that was you could feel the energy. And let's face it, they were great right from the start. I think they were 9-2 that year. The only 2 losses, they lost to Mines and they lost to Kearney that year, who were dynamite ball clubs. So they missed the playoffs that first year. But man, it's incredible. That's the other thing. Pueblo is in a lot of ways, a high school town, but they have no idea in a lot of ways how good you have to be and how good the players are up at CSU Pueblo. Maybe the top 2, 3, 4 guys in Pueblo can maybe even get on the field with them every year. We've got a couple from South this year. I think they're could be stars. And but you look through the history of it. I mean, it's just fantastic athletes to play. It's fun to do the games. It's the number one game in town. That's the main reason I like to do it. People say, well, would you rather be doing the high school game where there's 2,000 people and everybody's listening to it? I go, not really. I want to do the games where the best players are, where they're at, and where they're playing. The basketball, especially. The basketball is so amazing. It's so fast. And, there's maybe a guy here and there from Pueblo that's even playing in the RMAC, let alone getting to the big time. Jordan Gregory had a great career in college and went on to play some pro ball in Europe and in Australia, I think. So he's been very good. But it's the number one game in town. If you want to see the best action in Pueblo, go watch the game. But if you want to root for your cousin or your nephew or, and see bad basketball half the time, you go to the high school games in town. But if you want to see the best games, the best talent in Pueblo, you go to the university that wears Pueblo across their jersey. That's the way I look at it. I don't get the fact that a lot of people don't go to watch the ball games because it's an amazing product.
So what happened the first? I honestly didn't know. I thought from the time they started the football program up, you and Joe did the games. So the first couple of years, I mean, who had it? Was it the same station, or was the college trying to do it, or what happened there?
It was KCSJ. It was JJ Valentine and Tony Wright were doing the games, and they would kind of flop around. I don't think they always traveled to all the games. In fact, I remember Joe Servey used to do color commentary on the road games. So they'd only send JJ on the road, and then Joe would jump in the booth and do color at games. In fact, I remember Joe was doing color when they beat Shadron for the first time up there, the second year of the program, which was a remarkable victory. That's what kind of put the program on the map, really. But those were doing it, but they I don't want to dump on people, but that's what they came to. They said, hey, we want to kick it up a notch, and we want you to do the games. I go, okay, twist my arm.
Yeah. So has it been important? I'm in Northeast Wyoming, so a lot of the stuff I enjoy listening to sports wise, especially football. And maybe I'm biased and I'm not kissing your ass. I think you and Joe, I listen to you and Joe, and then I listen to Eli Gold. Like, those are my two. I like listening to you guys, and then I like listening to Eli Gold through the Bama football games. And I think you guys are as good as anybody in the country with how you do it, but it just gets better each time. So when you're working with a partner and you guys are traveling all the time, it's just like you talked about not sending the guys on the road together. I mean, as you've went on through the years, and even with Riston being there the whole time, like, you've built a camaraderie with CSU Pueblo football and everything that's going on. Is that what you attribute, like, to that cohesiveness?
Oh, definitely. It helps to, Joe and I have been partners forever, since, 99, we did that halftime show of that Bell game. That was the first time we ever worked together, but then the next year he joined the broadcast. So it was a natural fit. And, we enjoy traveling. The long road, people say, God, don't you hate the road trips? Sometimes those 8-10 hour drives are fun because we're constantly talking, we're bouncing things back and forth with each other. And we love the same music. We talk sports. We'll listen to games, and we take it seriously. I think that's the thing. We dive in. We do our homework. And the other thing about it, I think some people appreciate, some don't, is we refuse to be, Mr. Homer. I don't go. I have never done the we thing. I go, oh, well, we got to get a touchdown. I go, no, CSU-Pueblo needs a touchdown here. CSU-Pueblo needs a first down. I know who butters my bread is the way I like to say it, but I am an outside observer with a bit of a rooting interest, but I'm not a homer. So I think a lot of people appreciate that. I'm not afraid to kind of, pick my spots where I criticize. I'm not going to dump all over them. And Joe's not afraid to either, especially when he was working with the Chief. And now in fact, this year he kind of toned it down a little bit, I thought, because he realizes, hey, the college is paying me. I'm not getting paid by the Chieftain anymore to be a little bit more critical. But I think that's the main thing that we pride ourselves on is we call it maybe 60-40. We don't call it down the middle because, of course, obviously we know who we're kind of rooting for. But we're not this, we that. Does that make sense? And I think people appreciate that. Yeah. What else you got, Jack?
Okay. As you have gotten older, you have had a few surgeries. How has that affected your game?
Well, I've had double hip replacement. What's it been now? 3 years? 3 years last March 30th, 3 years ago, I had double hip replacement. And I should have done it 10 years ago because I wasted a few years there in my 40s or my late 40s, early 50s where I should have done it. I'm back to where my hips are fine. A lot of my back problems have gone away. I get a little twinge here and there, but I used to get back issues and it would I'd be out. And I'd walk, and I looked like an old man. I was walking bent over. Tonight I've been walking 6 miles 5 times a week, so and before I couldn't do that. If I walked 6 miles with my wife, I'd have to be on the couch for 3 days before I had my hip replacement. So that's actually helped my golf. My golf game's back to where, I still played all right before I got the hips done, but it was agony, and now I don't mind practicing. I don't mind playing. It's fun to go out and kick it around again. I also had a knee surgery maybe 15 years ago. I had a little arthroscopic thing on my, I think it was, I don't even remember. It's been so long, I can't remember which knee it was. Jumping a fence and hurt the inside. I don't know which knee it is. I think it was my right knee. But I've had that. I do have to go in. This is kind of a touchy. I have a colonoscopy scheduled on Friday.
It happens, man.
My first ever. We're going to see how that's going to go.
No, you have to do it. You need to do it. So I'm glad. That's good.
We'll see how that affects. We'll see how that affects my weight. I figured I'd do a before and after, and we'll see if I really am full of what, like some people have said I am.
Nah, we don't care what they say.
But health-wise, I'm great. I feel good. And I got I did a little radical thing here Sunday. I got a haircut for you guys, and when I talking haircut, I wasn't sure when I was going to get another haircut again.
No,
so
that's
take it off. I said do it number 5, and so this is pretty tight.
Yeah, we got a little thin spot here. The girls, they tease me. I have a nice fro that pops up. It's just not it's not a very Caucasian thing. So there's very few that can do this. So the amount of times I have left in life that I can grow this out, I know we're getting fewer and fewer. So we're going to let her go one more summer and see. But my youngest, it happened about 2 hours ago. She chastises me for the hairline and forehead. And I passed on to her because there's a lot of gap here. So it happens.
Here's a funny story with a Pueblo angle. Kalen Balaj, right? He's called Balaj. It was Ballage when they were in Pueblo, but Balaj, the kid that plays for the Dolphins. Well, his dad was Reggie. So he had a big forehead, but we called it knowledge. So the bigger your forehead, the smarter you were.
Yeah.
And Reggie's brother was Pat, who had a great career, went to Notre Dame, played, a little bit in the NFL, was an awesome safety, was a running back at Pueblo South, and then went on to Notre Dame. So if you get into Notre Dame, you can imagine what a study was. But Reggie just didn't quite get the athletic gene, but he had the knowledge with the force. So you kind of remind me of Reggie there.
Yep, that's what happens.
It's
Lots of knowledge.
sometimes
I got it
skips.
without the knowledge. No Notre Dame,
Yeah.
no knowledge. So just
Well,
the
sometimes
hair.
it skips because
Yeah.
the athletic prowess skipped Reggie and went to his boy who's in the NFL,
Yeah.
and his brother was in the.
Yeah. So maybe that's what I did. It skipped me and I passed it on. Maybe. You never know yet. Too
There
early
you
to
go.
tell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had the Bernie Sanders look going there. So
Oh, I know. I've seen the old pictures, man.
ridiculous.
That was there's you had the cool pants, the hair, like it was I like seeing on the Facebook or whatnot when people post the old Brooks pictures on the golf course.
Yes, the old fro. Yes, I called myself the White Billy Preston. Now, old people will get that one. Remember Billy Preston? Nothing from nothing. Had the big fro at the piano.
Yeah.
Yep. I called myself the White Billy Preston.
There you go.
Jack, you'll have to look that one up. Go to YouTube later on tonight. Look up Billy Preston, Nothing from Nothing, and you'll get that one.
Fun. I'm doing it right now.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask one of your questions in here, Jack. I have your sheet in front of me. And this was another thing that was kind of discussed with Morgan is I've lived vicariously through you and Joe for my CSU-Pueblo stuff. So what was the biggest game that you felt you called for the Thunderwolves?
Well, the natural answer is always the national championship game. But my favorite game of all time was when they went to Nebraska Kearney and beat Kearney at Kearney to win the title. It was a great game.
Is that the year? Is this the national championship year?
No.
Okay.
That was the first year they won the conference.
Okay.
So I would say it was probably 2012. Probably it was the last year Kearney was in the conference.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that was 2012, and it was at their place. They thought they were just going to roll the Thunderwolves, and the Thunderwolves, Lee Meisner were great. He had an interception in that game. Great defense. Who else had the interception that sealed? Might have been Steph Dickens. I can't remember for sure, but that it picked to seal the game late. And it was just awesome. And then Joe and I decided since we drove all night after doing a high school game in town, I can't remember which game we did, but we drove all the way to Kearney, did the game. It was an afternoon game, went and had dinner. We decided to stay the night. And it was very nice being at the restaurant there in Kearney with your CSU-Pueblo gear, eating a steak after they just knocked off the Lopers.
Yeah. Your food got spit on.
So that was my favorite. Yeah. My the other games would probably be, if you had a top five game, the game they beat Shadron when they were down 21-3, I think late in the first half, and then Paul Browning caught a touchdown pass late in the first half, and they came from behind and won that game. And then they had another game, the overtime game against Shadron, which they beat them. I think it was 2 or 3 overtimes, can't remember for sure. And there was a goal line stand where they stopped Shadron. Then we had a couple of punishing losses. The loss that will always stick in your mind is the game at Mesa when they got robbed. That was a great game. They comeback victory at Western State in the national championship year when it was first in 98, kind of like the Broncos. I think it was first in 97 for them. They came all the way back and won it. And that's when they, Western State had Austin Eckler, who was a great back. And they were a good team. So there's been a lot of games that you can think back on that were awesome. The West Georgia playoff game was unbelievable. I mean, how could that not be in the top 5? And
that was Morgan's. That's the one he pointed out that he, even over the national title, and that was his. Mine, I thought the Greeley game was pretty cool for them, but the Sam Houston State – you guys, I remember sitting at the house, I sat down and just stared at my wall and listened to you guys call that game, and they killed them. It wasn't close. 3 minutes into the game, you could even sense it from listening to you guys. They're going to kill these guys. And it was really cool to listen to that because, Sam Houston – I want to say they were number 15 at the time or something.
They went on that year. They went to the national semifinal.
Yeah, because North Dakota beat them, I think, to Wentz. Yeah. So
yeah, exactly.
and the Thunderwolves just killed them. So that to me,
Well, here, let
that's
me tell you a
always my
funny story
favorite.
about that game. The Sam Houston game. Their play guy was named Cooter.
Okay, of
Good
course
Southern
he
name
was.
down
Yeah.
there. Cooter. I can't remember his last name. So he was a good old boy, big deep boys calling the game, and he was excited about the game, and they thought for sure they were just going to kick butt and win the game. And then at halftime, I mean, we're destroying them, and then you go up to the halftime spread, because we do our halftime show. That's when we get like our 10 minutes off. So we go over there to do the food. I mean, it was like a morgue, and here we bebop in. It's a great game, isn't it, guys? Hey, Cooter.
Yeah, because it's different. People that haven't been down there don't realize, and you hear the whole Texas football, and it's a completely different animal down there for how they take their football.
Exactly, and then of course you're down there in Huntsville where the death chamber is. In fact,
Yeah,
right,
you're watching it. I remember
from the booth. You
could
see the death chamber right from the booth. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's my favorite one all time.
Yeah, so that's a big deal there. They draw 10 to 15,000 a game there for Division II. Pretty good crowd. One of the bigger crowds the Thunderwolves played on that year, besides being at home. In fact, the biggest road crowd they've ever played in front of, and knocked them off.
Hey, Jack, what else you got?
All right. Now that you've been back to playing on a regular basis, how has Bud Light and gargle shots helped or hurt your game?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's fun. Back before I had my hip surgery, I wasn't playing a lot of golf, and it was an ordeal to play. And then I kind of got hooked up with Jack at his class reunion, I think, and we kind of went, and they had a golf outing, and we kind of struck up a deal. And he goes, "Hey, you want to play in this golf league?" And I go, "Yeah, all right, it'll get me out and play," because I wasn't playing a lot of golf. It wasn't fun for me because it hurt so much. And so we struck up a friendship, started playing the game, and we took it very, very light. Now, I'm still competitive. I want to beat everybody I play. There's money on the line. So whenever there's money on the line, you're going to play a little bit harder. We have won the league once. We finished second a couple times, third another year. But, yeah, it's when I was in my competitive stages before probably 45, I would never dream of drinking a beer playing a round of golf. But now I can never dream about playing a round of golf without having at least one aside. It kind of takes the edge off, if you know what I mean. So the gargle shot, that was just a goofy thing. So it's kind of a shtick thing, and it's fun, but yeah, it's just made things light on the golf course. It's still competitive, but you just go out there to have a great time. I look forward to Wednesdays, 20 Wednesdays of summer, I guess is the way you should put it.
Okay, so here's my last question for me then on this topic. So when I'm out, I don't do maybe 5 rounds a year tops. But the guys I play with that play a little more, they talk about getting that little groove, that 3 or 4 beer happy spot, where then they don't want to go buy that, but they want to stay there.
4's too many.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Is there any truth to that? Like, is there a looseness you get to find your groove if you have a shot or a beer or two? Is it limbering you up? Is it changing you mentally? Like, what is it? Or do you think that's all just bull crap?
Well, one of the greatest exhibitions of golf I ever witnessed when I was back in my competitive days. This is one of the years that I'd finished early, wasn't really in the mix, so to speak. But or maybe I was in the last group, but I witnessed it. Bill Bakiza, famous Pueblo player. He's the uncle of Rocky Taravella. Jade Bakiza, our card girl, that's her dad. On our Brooks and Dunn Comedy Golf.
Gotcha.
Jade.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So he makes the turn one year, and he is just struggling like you cannot believe. And he fires down a couple of Coors Lights, a couple bullets, and proceeds to shoot like 2 under on the back nine. I mean, he hit every shot right on the button, but he played nervous the whole round. But then he had those couple beers, and lo and behold, so we call it a beer Kiza now.
Gotcha.
If you need some help, you go to a beer Kiza.
Okay.
And I never used to understand that, but as I got into my later 40s, I can totally understand the beer thing to just kind of take the edge off a little bit. Aiming oil.
Yeah, the little aiming oil. It doesn't hurt. There doesn't hurt anything. Have a little aiming oil. Okay, Jack, last question. You got a good one there for your final one. I think that's a good one to end on, so let him have it.
Why did you shave your mustache?
Just a change. I used to catch a lot of heat from that thing. I kind of liked it. My wife liked it. My kids liked it. But I just decided one day, I'm going to change things up. Every once in a while, I'll grow out a little scruff. I'll let it go for a week or so. And I brought the mustache back for about a week, a little while back. But I don't know. I thought its time had come to an end. It had a good run, though. It had a great run with the stash.
Awesome. Well, man, we appreciate you taking some time with us tonight. Hopefully, I hope we get to hear you call some football games this fall. I don't care. I don't care if there's no one in the crowd. I hear the roar a little bit, but just getting to hear you and Joe, I hope that's something we get to do. And hopefully then once football gets on, we can chat again a little bit about the Thunderwolves and kind of see what they're going to do this year.
Well, once the games do start, if they do start and there's no fans, Joe and I will be the most at risk because we'll be the ones in our late 50s.
Yeah.
At most risk for the virus.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old athletes out there. Maybe some of the coaches you got to worry about, but you can kind of socially distance them. But, I would think there's going to be a way to get the games back on it. But that's another topic. Don't get me started.
No, I won't. We don't have time. We can do that one again later on. So, dude, we appreciate you, though, man. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us tonight.
Enjoyed it, Kevin. Thanks, Jack. Enjoy your show, buddy. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.